Hi guys, so welcome back to Unfiltered Tales. Today we're going to read chapter 1 of Reconstructed, my memoir about my cancer journey. So let's begin. Some dates fade into the background of your life. Others divide your life into two parts. For me, February 9th, 2023 became the line that separated who I was from who I would become. It has been 6 months since I first felt the lump. 6 months of denial, 6 months of convincing myself that 26-year-olds don't get breast cancer. Every excuse sounded more believable than the truth. Maybe it was hormonal. Maybe it was scar tissue. Maybe it was stress. I had always been healthy enough. Cancer belonged to someone else's story, not mine. Except every time I showered, every time I got dressed, every time I absent-mindedly crossed my arms over my chest, I felt it. The lump wasn't disappearing. If anything, it was getting bigger. Still, I waited. Part of me was afraid of what a doctor might find. The other part believed that if I ignored it long enough, it would somehow stop existing. Eventually, denial lost. That morning, I drove to the imaging center with a knot in my stomach, so tight it felt impossible to breathe. The drive itself is a blur now, but I remember sitting in the parking lot for several minutes before going inside. I stared at the entrance and thought about turning around. I wasn't ready for my life to change. The waiting room was quiet, too quiet. Everyone seemed to know exactly why they were there, yet no one looked at one another. The air felt heavy with uncertainty. I checked in, answered the routine questions, and waited for my name to be called. When the ultrasound technician finally led me back, I climbed onto the exam table and lay on my back while she dimmed the lights. The room became almost silent, except for the soft hum of the ultrasound machine. The gel was colder than I expected. As she placed the probe against my skin, I turned my head towards the monitor. I wish I hadn't. There, filling the screen, was something that didn't belong inside my body. It wasn't smooth. It was not round. Its edges stretched out in jagged directions like branches or claws. The only comparison my terrified brain could make was that it looked like the head of a triceratops. It looked alive, foreign, like something that had invaded me. The technician remained professionally calm, carefully moving the wand over the area while taking image after image. She never said anything alarming, but she didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than words ever could. I searched her face for reassurance, for even the smallest smile, anything. Instead, I watched her save image after image while my heart sank deeper into my chest. I already knew. No one had said the word cancer, but somewhere deep inside, I already knew. Several hours later, I underwent a diagnostic mammogram. Standing there while the machine compressed my breast, I felt strangely disconnected from my own body, as though I was watching someone else's life unfold. Afterward, the radiologist came in. His expression was kind, but serious. He explained that the imaging was highly concerning. The report was classified as BI-RADS5, 95% likely to be cancer. 95%. I remember staring at him as though he had spoken another language. 95% wasn't reassurance. It wasn't uncertainty. It was almost certainty. I left the image center, carrying paperwork in my hands and fear in every part of my body. The drive home felt impossibly long. I don't remember much of it except gripping the steering wheel so tightly my hands hurt. Every red light gave me another chance to think. What if they're wrong? What if they're right? Am I dying? How do I tell my family? What if I never get to have children? What happens to my marriage? One appointment had somehow unraveled my entire future. Over the next several weeks, my world became consumed by testing, blood draws, phone calls, appointments, waiting rooms. I underwent a comprehensive 92-gene hereditary cancer panel, hoping it might possibly provide answers about why this was happening. Had I inherited a genetic mutation? Was there something hidden inside my DNA that had quietly determined my future before I was ever born? The waiting became its own form of torture. Every time my phone rang, my stomach dropped. Every unknown number made my heart race. Friends and family asked how I was doing. I smiled. I didn't know anything yet. but inside I was already grieving. By the end of February, it was time for my breast biopsy. The room was bright, sterile, and impossibly cold. I lay on the table trying to stay still while the radiologist explained each step. They numbed my breast and with local anesthetic before inserting the biopsy needle. I could hear each loud click of the device collecting tissue samples. Click, click, click. Each sound echoed through the room. Each click felt like another piece of evidence being gathered against me. When it was over, they placed a small titanium marker inside my breast so they could always identify where the tumor had been. Even then, I still held on to hope. Maybe everyone was wrong. Maybe this would be one of those incredible stories where everything looked like cancer but wasn't. Maybe I would wake up from this nightmare. On March 6, 2023, my phone rang. I already knew why. I answered anyway. The voice on the other line was gentle, professional, compassionate, but no amount of kindness could soften what came next. Your biopsy confirmed invasive ductal carcinoma. Cancer. 1 word, 6 letters. A lifetime of consequences. The room around me suddenly felt impossibly quiet. I don't remember everything that was said after that. I remember trying to listen while my mind screamed, "Cancer? At 26? How?" I wasn't thinking about survival statistics. I wasn't thinking about treatment. I wasn't even thinking about stage. I simply couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that I had cancer. At that point, I didn't yet know it was metastatic. I didn't know it had already spread beyond my breast. I still believed there was a finish line waiting somewhere ahead. I had no idea my hardest conversation was still to come. Just 10 days later, on March 16th, I underwent surgery to have a chemotherapy port implanted into my left side of my chest. Walking into the hospital that morning felt surreal. Just weeks earlier, I had been planning my future. Now I was preparing my body to receive chemotherapy. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and freshly cleaned floors. Nurses moved quickly through the hallways while patients came and went, each carrying stories I couldn't possibly know. I changed into the hospital gown and climbed onto the bed. The fabric was thin. The room was cold. Everything suddenly felt frighteningly real. As I waited, I stared at the ceiling tiles, trying to memorize their pattern because looking anywhere else meant acknowledging what was about to happen. A nurse noticed the tears gathering in my eyes and gently squeezed my hand. "You've got this," she whispered. I wanted to believe her. Moments later, the medication began to take effect. As the room slowly faded around me, one thought echoed louder than every other. This is real. I have cancer, and my life will never be the same.